we will need much more education into the country. And the education came from the restaurants, from the sommelier, from the school of the sommelier, from the teacher. So this is what I see in the future. So much more people we have trained, much more people with a deep knowledge as you are about Italian wines and about Italian tradition and cuisine. Much more the client will be trained, will have a knowledge, and will be curious about our traditions, our food, and our wine. So there is no future without the knowledge, and this is what I hope. I hope that every year to see, I'm talking for now, for Kenya, I hope to see more and more qualified sommeliers in the restaurant, more and more classes of sommelier in terms of tastings, more and more events, more and more wineries that from Italy came to Africa, so came to Kenya to show, to make value, and to teach. So this is what I see in the future. More and more education, more and more knowledgeable people about our tradition, our food, and our wine.
Welcome to this special Clubhouse session of the Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as members of the Italian wine community engage in fascinating conversations about contemporary wine topics. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. And remember to subscribe and rate the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.
Hi everyone, this is Beatrice welcoming you to the Italian Wine Clubhouse Ambassadors Corner, one of the top-ranked shows on Italian Wine Podcast. Here, our ambassadors get the mic to interview their favorite producers with total freedom. And if you miss it live, no worries. It's recorded and dropped later on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today's guest host is Daniel Mwangi. Daniel is a sommelier and food and beverage expert from Kenya. He has served as sommelier with Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection, Silver Seas Cruises, and Celebrity Cruises, curating fine wine experiences for a global clientele, and has worked in the Armani, Marriott, and Intercontinental hotels in Dubai. Today, he's going to interview Arber Shabani from Ridolfi winery in Tuscany. So, Daniel, Arber, how are you doing, my guys?
I'm doing great. Bea. I'm talking now from Montalcino, and it's the weather is not perfect as the Tuscan weather, but it's still winter time, so I'm doing great. And thank you very much for the invitation.
It's our pleasure to have you here.
Daniel, how about you?
I'm doing great. I'm in Nairobi.
Daniel, are you ready for our 3 ritual questions?
Yes, ready.
Perfect. How did you discover the wines of Ridolfi winery?
Yes, I discovered the wines in the third edition of Gambero Rosso in Kenya, which happened at the end of the last month. So I had just come for vacation from the cruise line, and there was a beautiful event. Always happens here in Kenya every year, Gambero Rosso. This was his third time to come to Kenya. So one of the winemakers that I saw was Ridolfi, and I had great wines, very beautiful wines that was my first time to interact with them. Actually, I had never tasted them before.
Great. Why did you select Arber as your featured guest?
Yes, so Arber was very kind in his stand. He had one of those stands where he was very enthusiastic when he's speaking to clients, whether it's importers or consumers. He was very, very kind when you go to his stand. You could always see the enthusiasm that he had talking about the wines and also acknowledging everyone that comes to the stand. Was very charming gentleman. So I knew that I wanted to interview him and to learn more about the winery because of his energy that he was portraying at the event.
Fantastic. What are the learning objectives that we should expect from this interview?
So today I would like us to learn more about the terroir and vineyard of this beautiful place, winery. Then we talk about some winemaking techniques that they employ in their winery, some aging and vintages, some of the best vintages that they have. Then we touch a little bit about tradition and regulations that they have to follow, a little time on market and global perspective, and the last stage we'll talk about the personal story of the winery and what drives them to be who they are now.
That sounds like a really nice plan for me, so it's time to mute myself. Now I'm turning over the floor to you, Daniel. Have a nice interview, guys.
Thank you, Beatrice. So, Mr. Arber, great to meet you again. It was a beautiful time when we met in Nairobi. It was a great opportunity to see your kindness and your acknowledgement when we came to the stands, and all the time you are ready to talk about the wines. You're always ready to explain and let us have more taste and more taste and more taste of the wine. So that's why we are here, so we can learn more about what we have in the glass when it comes to Montalcino. We ready for the chat?
I'm super ready. Daniel, I would like first of all to thank you very much for the invitation and for the great words that you have had for me in introduction. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be here by your side and to make this interview together.
Always a pleasure to have you here. So we'll go right into it. Please explain to us, describe the soul of Montalcino in a glass. Like anybody who has never tasted Montalcino, what is it in a glass that they can easily identify with?
Well, Montalcino, it's about Sangiovese as a grape, and would say that in terms of the soul in a glass, it's a very bright wine. It's a very light and a very perfumed wine, very much into the primary and secondary aroma. So the markers of a young Sangiovese, like dark sour cherries and strawberries. So it's a wine that fascinates you with aromas and perfumes. And it's a very food wine. So it embraces very much the local food, but also the international food. So this is, for me, the description of Montalcino in a glass.
So usually when we see this Montalcino and we see this type of wine, as you mentioned, we already know that we are usually thinking about Tuscany most of the time. And what really makes it very uniquely suited to have this grape variety does very well in Tuscany region specifically, and in the Montalcino area to be specific.
Well, this Daniel, it's something that comes with the years. So the nature have selected for thousands of years the clones that we have now in Tuscany and especially in Montalcino. And we have to admit that this clone has have found in Montalcino the perfect conditions, the microclimate conditions to grow, so to give some of the best fruits. And you know better than me that it's everything in terms of fine wines or wines. To have the best wines, we always start from the great fruits. So what makes the difference is a mix between composition of the soil, exposure to the sun, the microclimate, so the winds, the quantity of rains, the quantity of the days, the sunny days that we have. So it's a mix, it's a combination of this that makes so special Montalcino today regarding the Sangiovese.
Thank you. So specifically about Ridolfi, what does producing, especially the Brunello, mean to you? Like, and also you'll take us through the four beautiful wines that you sent to me earlier on. So what does it mean to you to Ridolfi to produce Brunello?
Well, Daniel, for us at Ridolfi to produce Brunello, it's quite clear, and we have a very clean vision about what is Montalcino, what is Sangiovese, and what is Brunello for us. Especially talking about the Brunello, as we were talking about the nature today. So, what is very fundamental for us is to translate in wine what the nature gives to us in terms of fruits. So, we are wine growers, so we take care about the land, we take care about the vines. So, working all the year long to cultivate some of the best grapes. So those grapes with our work, then after the fifth year from the harvest can give us some of the best wines in the world. So yeah, translate into the wine what the nature gives to us in terms of fruits.
Right. So would you kindly take us through the four Brunellos, the three Brunellos and one Rosso Montalcino?
So Ridolfi has 14 hectares under Brunello di Montalcino appellation and almost three under Rosso di Montalcino. So all the vineyards are worked as Brunello. So we do not make differences between the vineyards. So we treat everything as the highest quality. We make three times the pre-harvest to reduce a bit the quantity of the grapes on the plant. So we let around 1.2, 1.3 kilos of grapes per plant. And normally we start harvesting the last week of September because the winery is located on the northeast part of Montalcino, which is then the coldest area of Montalcino. So this means that we need a bit more time for the perfect ripening. All the vineyards are harvested separate, are fermented separate with indigenous yeast, and then very long maceration on the skins, and then all the wines goes into the big barrels in terms of large Slavonian and French oak, but always about 32 to 35 hectoliters. The genius behind the winery is Gianni Macari. It's our winemaker and director of the winery, one of the most talented winemakers that we have in Montalcino. And he follows very much the Giulio Gambelli school. So very long maceration of the skins, very long also aging in the barrels. And what we do after 1 year that the wines were aged in the barrels, we taste everything. And the ones that are more fresh, more food forward, more ready, we'll bottle as Rosso di Montalcino, so the first wine that we produce. And this wine goes on the market the second year after the harvest, while the Brunello goes on the market the fifth year after the harvest. Regarding the Brunello, as per appellation, has to be aged for 2 years, but internally at Ridolfi, we decided to age for 3 years. So one more year aging time. So the ones when we tend to bottle are ready to be then shipped in the market and to be enjoyed. The third wine, so we have Brunello Riserva. The Brunello Riserva goes on the market the sixth year after the harvest. And for us, it's a single vineyard, which is Mercatale. This vineyard is harvested separate, it's fermented separate, it's aged separate, and normally we produce around 1 barrel when it's a great vintage only. Last vintage that we have produced, it's 2019, and this is the vintage that we are releasing now on the market. So Mercatale 2019 was aged for 55 months in the big oak barrel, and then now other 2 years in the bottle. Last wine, last but not least, is Donna Rebecca. It's completely another level of wine in terms of winemaking. It's integral fermentation in small oak. So we have the first three wines, so Rosso, Brunello, and Brunello Reserva, classic and traditional, of Montalcino, so always in big barrels. And the last one, the Donna Rebecca, we are producing a bit different. So it's an integral fermentation in small French oak barrels. So all the process of Donna Rebecca is made in the small barrel. So it's stylistically different, and also in terms of taste is different. So this is a bit a quick overview about the wines that we produce, Daniel.
Thank you for the highlight. I saw about the name Mekatale and Donna Rebecca. What's the ideology about using these specific names for someone who would not have come across this wine? What do they think about when they see this name? Is it name of place, name of someone, a local legend? Please let us know.
We'll start with Donna Rebecca. Donna Rebecca is the first niece of the family. Until Rebecca, the family have had nephews. So we dedicated the Donna Rebecca Selezione di Brunello to Rebecca because it's our most powerful wine and it's the most fascinating wine that we produce. Regarding Mercatale, it's a beautiful history because traces back in the 1200, beginning of 1300, that the noble family from Florence, which is Ridolfi, came down south to Montalcino, so to Siena area. And they were settled exactly in the area where we are nowadays. And the area is called Mercatale because in that area where we are, so on the northeast part of Montalcino, passes through a very old pilgrim road, which is Via Francigena. At that time was the highway of the central part of Italy that connected Canterbury in UK to Rome, to the Pope. And it passes through also Montalcino, and it passes through our winery in Montalcino. And the area where we are located is called Mercatale because in that area was organized a local market. Mercato means market. So the name of the area is Mercatale. So we gave this name, which is the name of the vineyard, also the name to our Brunello Reserva.
Thank you for explaining the because I saw the name and I didn't know what to think. So that's what we needed to understand. So how would you describe your house style? Is it more rustic, old school, or is it a little touch of new modern ways and a little bit more approachable for the newer market as an emerging issues in the current situations?
I would say that we have classic and traditionals. The wines that Ridolfi produces today reminds me the wines of the late 80s, beginning of the 90s in Montalcino. Very bright, very light. perfect harmony in terms of tannins and a very high drinkability. So this is the style that we are producing today.
So about the practicing, many wineries nowadays practice organic, biodynamic viticulture or sustainability. Are you doing any of this, and what do you think are the impacts they are giving into the final product for the consumers, for the market?
Daniel, from 2023, all the vineyards of Ridolfi are fully certificate organic. We have always been treating the vineyards as organic. So for us, it's fundamental the low intervention in the vineyard. So taking care about the nature, what we have. And it's super, super important, not only for what we do, but also for the markets. I remember always that we as farmers we have very powerful things, so in terms of keeping what we have and maintaining for the future generation, and this is only it will be possible to keep the exact picture that we have today if we do this with conscious and with organic farming.
Yes, the future is going all the way to organic. It's very nice to have wineries that uphold this ideology so that we save the earth as well. So, do you feel any responsibility to tradition or freedom to innovate?
We definitely prefer in terms of tradition, but it doesn't mean that being tradition you cannot use modern technologies. So our thought is quite clear and simple. If there is a technology today that can upgrade the quality of the wines that we produce, the impact that we have on the nature and on the surroundings, we will use it. So respecting the traditions, respecting the wines that we produce, if there is any technology that helps us in terms of producing, so having a better production, having a higher quality, having less impact, using less raw materials, so yes, we'll use it. So respecting tradition doesn't mean to use the same methods that we have used in the 800, but is also to improve and to look forward for the new technology that can help us as farmers.
Yes, I believe that creates a beautiful balance between modern techniques and historical background that we take care of the identity of the area and the wine. So, about the strict measures that are set there for Brunello, how do you usually approach these restrictions when it comes to sometime oak aging and just to expound to understand what are the measures that you take to uphold these aging requirements?
Well, Daniel, to be a producer in Montalcino, our appellation, we have to respect 53 rules that we have. And of course, we respect all of this. The appellation talks about the minimum requirement. Just to give you an idea, in terms of aging, the appellation says that minimum, the Brunello has to be aged for 24 months in the barrel. The barrel can be big, small, French oak, Slavonian oak. This is up to you as a producer. So the appellation gives to you a bit of freedom in doing this. And also in terms of aging in the bottle, the appellation says that minimum aging in the bottle is 4 months. We do not have a freedom in terms of cork because, as per appellation, all the Brunello di Montalcino has to be bottled in natural cork. So these are some of the rules. So just to give you an idea, for example, the appellation says minimum 24 months in the barrel. Ridolfi makes 36 months in the barrels, and we are using large oak, so 32, 35 hectoliters. The minimum requirement for the bottling age is 4 months in the bottle. When we release a bottle of Brunello in the market, it has minimum 18 to 24 months aging in the bottle. We do this because when we release the wine into the market, the wines has to be approachable and has to be enjoyable to give the possibility to the clients, if they like fresh wines, they can open and they can enjoy the wines. We will never sell a bottle of wine into the market and say buy it now and open in 10 years. It's not our approach.
Yeah, and one thing that I love Brunello about is how The wines come out ready to, you don't need to buy and keep for your grandchildren or keep it for, I don't know, 70 years to enjoy it. You make it already when it's ready. When someone opens, even if it's a freshly released Brunello, you can still enjoy it. And this goes across to Italian wines, and that's why I'm very passionate about Italian wines. They're always ready to drink. Yes, you follow these strict restrictions, but when the wine comes out, also it's ready. You will enjoy now. You can enjoy later. Always a great opportunity to enjoy Italian wines. So about the local dishes in the area, what are some of the favorite local dishes that you could pair with a Brunello that maybe you as a person you're more fond and passionate about, or maybe it's a local dish that goes across the board in different wineries, in different restaurants in the area? What are some of them that you could think about?
Well, Daniel, so almost 45% of the entire area of Montalcino is forest. So, as you can imagine, we have a lot of wild animals, so like wild boars and deers and all this part of the animals. So, the traditional dishes of Montalcino, since we have been for thousands of years farmers, are dishes with meat, with fat, because at that time people needs a lot of energy, and still we need a lot of energy working the land, working the vineyards. So as days like this, with cold, with wind, so you needed energy. So the classic dishes that we have for wintertime are dishes based with meat, wild boar. So dishes that goes in terms of tradition dishes can be ossobuco, can be peposo, so can be, for example, pici with ragu. So dishes that gives to the people enough energy and power to be able to be strong to work the field, because we all know that it's a very very hard work to stay every day in the field, in the vineyard. Agriculture, it's always tough, so you need it at that time, and still today we need some energy. So what I suggest with the Brunello, since the Brunello, it's a wine with depth, it's a multi-layer wine and has a lot of acidity. The combinations of pairing that we make much more is structured. The wine also, we will need a bit more reduction in the plate. So I would say ossobuco, peposo, those are the classic dishes from Montalcino. And also I would say the pici with ragu di cinghiale can be a very, very good pairing. In terms of, I will add also some cheese because I'm a fan of cheeses. For example, if you have a good Brunello, I love very much to pair so with 8 cheeses. Very close to Montalcino, we produce a fantastic cheese, which is Pecorino di Pienza. So another pairing that I will suggest to the people that are listening will be just Brunello di Montalcino with 24 or 36 months of Pecorino di Pienza aging.
Oh, that's a beautiful combination, especially the osombuco. I've tried it. I've enjoyed it a lot. We have a lot in the cruise lines as well. It's one of those authentic Italian dishes that we have in some of those Italian restaurants that we have on board and at sea. It's a great way. Actually, now I know that next time I'll try it with a Brunello. I didn't know what to pair it with, but I enjoyed the dish as well. It was a beautiful one. And pecorino as well. It's a great cheese to enjoy. So about the global market, there's a lot of changes. There's so much international market that influences how winemakers doing their things nowadays, because there's different demands of different products that were not there earlier on in the early ages. How has the international market influenced your production as Ridolfi? And yes, just to understand.
Well, Daniel, it's Ridolfi as an estate from our owner Giuseppe Valterreti. The vision have always been to produce some of the fine wines from Montalcino. We do not very much follow the fashion in terms of wines. We follow what is our tradition, what has always been a tradition, and what is our vision in producing some fine wines. So the last years we never changed the styles of the wine. So what we try always to do is to improve the quality, but not changing the style of the wine, because we are wine growers, so we are farmers, so we take care about the vines, and we always tend to translate in wine the grapes that the nature gives to us. And we will never, and this is the beauty of making wine, that every year is different, because depending on the climate that we have that year, the fruits that the nature gives to us are different. So in the vintage, which is in terms of warm vintage, we'll have a bit more skin and less juice. So we'll have the ones that are with more depth. In the vintages like, let's say, 2018 or 2024, that were a bit more fresh vintages, and with some rains, we'll have the wines that are more light, more bright, a bit early to be ready. So I think that this is the beauty of making wine, that every year it's different and every year is unique. I always said to the people all around, so to our clients, to our partners, that a vintage is a unique vintage. We will never have the chance to produce the same vintage again. That can be similarities, but will never be again another 2019, another 20 Brunello, another 21 Brunello. So each vintage has its own beauty. And this is for me a fundamental factor into the farming of the wines.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So about authenticity of their wines to meet global demands, as you mentioned, how do you approach this? When is it through your own tasting? Is it through labeling? Is it through blending that you make sure that wine from Ridolfi from this year, it has a certain style that we know? If I do it on a blind, I can easily tell, and I can notice, yes, the vintages are different, but I can tell this is how Ridolfi produces. How do you do that? Is it through tasting? Is it through blending? Is it through a team of panel that approve and talk about the wine? This is how our identity need to be.
Well, as always, Daniel, it's a teamwork. So we have our director of winemaker, which is Gianni Macari, 35 years of harvest, so 35th harvest in Montalcino. As a great experience, is one of the biggest guys that we have in Montalcino in terms of knowledge that he has. And also all the team, because the winery, we are 8 people that we work all together. It's for us, it's our family, and it's a team decision. So what we do, it's starting from the year, we see a bit how was the year, how was the weather that year, what were the fruits that the nature gives us that year, how were the fermentation, what was the path of the fermentation, was that year a bit more on the flowers, much more on the fruits, much more on the depth, on how were the tannins. So we still bit all the path, and then we do a blending of all the vineyards that we have. The good thing is that all the vineyards that we have are all around the estate, and all the vineyards are on the northeast part of Montalcino. So it's a pure picture. Our wines, I would say, it's a pure picture, our pure picture about what are the wines on the northeast part of Montalcino. So I would say that we do, by working every day, by tasting every day, by blending, and by always talking together inside the team. So I said always that when we release a bottle of Brunello di Montalcino, it's 4 and almost 5 years of work behind that bottle, from the growing season to the bottling and labeling and then releasing on the market. So it's not one decision, but it's multiple decisions during the 5 years of work.
I see, I see. And about any vintage in particular that you can say this one we decided, or even from popular demand, that this was among the best vintages that we had from Ridolfi, that people asked for, that a lot of high-end hotels or high places that were really looking forward to that specific vintage. Is there anyone that you can recall?
I would say that in terms of vintage, there are vintage with more sun, there are vintage with less sun, with more water. So I deeply think that the great producers, in terms of high end quality, they make fine wines every year. In terms of the vintage is different, but the quality of the wines is always on top, and it's always some of the best wines. So just to make you an example, nowadays we are drinking also the 2018 vintage. 2018 vintage, especially from the journalists, were a bit criticized because was had some issue in terms of water. But you cannot imagine how great is the wine that we have produced in the 2018. In terms of a winery, we make not only Ridolfi but all the wine producer. We make much more efforts in challenge vintage like 2018 or 2017, that in a very high end vintage that can be, for example, 16 and 19. So I always say to the client, please support the small producers. in the vintages that the conditions were not perfect, so you can give the opportunity to these wineries to make also great wines in the great vintages. So historically, let's say for the last year are in terms of vintages the most important that are required from the, especially from the collectors, could be 16, 19 and 21. But what I do see from the clients, they trust us 100%. And when they see that Ridolfi has produced a bottle of wine rather than 2021, it means that we have produced the best of that vintage over there.
About Brunello as a whole, not just from your winery, what do you think is the future hold for it, and in this very competitive market, because there are so many other styles from different regions, from different countries? What do you think is the future of Brunello in competitive market, and especially now we will talk about also different markets? We have Africa market, we have Asia market, and especially African market also really trying to uphold and appreciate Italian wines, different styles and different areas. What do you think is the future?
Well, the future for Montalcino, it's the present. I always say that we built our future with what we do in the present, okay, with the decision that we make in the present. And I see a very bright future for Montalcino. It's a small area of production. We produce some of the fine wines in the world. A very good combination is also with our dishes. So, in terms of the restaurant part, bring us the people to consume the Brunello di Montalcino. And what I see in the future, we should produce a little bit less in terms of quantities. We should focus on the quality to produce less quantity but a higher quality every year. So this is the future of what I see, not only in Montalcino, but I see a bit worldwide. If there is a recipe, I would say to produce a bit less and to produce every year a higher quality. So this will be the success. And of course, making value about what we do. So in terms of going outside of Montalcino worldwide, to taste together with the clients, to teach also the clients in terms of wine, how we do, what we do, what are the foods, the pairing foods, traditional and not only traditional, because when we were together in Kenya, we had some beautiful dishes from Africa that were paired fantastically with the Brunello. You can see some classic and traditional dish from Asia that pairs very well with Brunello. So this is also what we should do. So going outside, spreading the word about Brunello di Montalcino and its uniqueness, and also inviting in Montalcino, in Tuscany, the people to see the beauty of the nature that we have, and also the big work that has been done, that always we do every day to produce and to protect the airs that we have. So this is my suggestion.
All right. Since you mentioned Kenya in particular, and also Africa as a new emerging market, certainly what mostly attracted you to Kenya and trying to explore the African market in general? And what do you see about the market that kind of excites you? And what do you think would be some points that you're looking forward into, that this is a market that is really growing and you'd be interested in? What attracted you to this market?
Well, Daniel, I always seen a growing interest from African markets towards Italian food and wine. So what I see worldwide is that the food and wine goes always together, and especially let's talk about Kenya. We have a lot of Italian restaurants in Nairobi, in the resorts. So you can confirm this. So Italian restaurants has Italian wine. So for me, this is a fundamental binomium. So it's that the restaurants go always with wines. And is my third time that I came in Kenya, and every year I see a lot of enthusiasm from you guys, a lot of curiosity, and a lot of people would like to learn much more about our culture, about food, about our wine, and about our traditions. So I deeply see a huge potential for not only for Brunello Montalcino, but for all Italian wines into Africa. There are many nations where we can do very well where we can spread the words.
Yes, thank you for expounding on that. Just also on our market, what are some of the hopes that you have in our market that you would wish either the people who are involved with these wines, especially not just Brunello, but Italian wines, some of our people here in the country, the restaurants you mentioned, what are some of the hopes that you hope for that they will be either more educated about or maybe more approachable or maybe something that you can think about our market that you wish could have a positive impact into what Italian winemakers have to offer to the market?
Well, Daniel, this is a great point of view. So what I always says is that we will need much more education into the country. And the education came from the restaurants, from the sommelier, from the school of the sommelier, from the teacher. So this is what I see in the future. So much more people we have trained, much more people with a deep knowledge as you are about Italian wines and about Italian tradition and cuisine. Much more the client will be trained, will have a knowledge, and will be curious about our traditions, our food, and our wine. So there is no future without the knowledge, and this is what I hope. I hope that every year to see, I'm talking for now for Kenya, I hope to see more and more qualified sommeliers in the restaurant, more and more classes of sommelier in terms of tastings, more and more events, more and more wineries that from Italy came to Africa, so came to Kenya to show, to make value, and to teach. So this is what I see in the future: more and more education, more and more knowledgeable people about our tradition, our food, and our wine.
Yeah, and this is also, we would like to thank Vinitaly International Academy also for being part of that knowledge and part of that support to push us to learn more about wines. I was happy and I was lucky to be there last year. Another gentleman was there. Every year there's different people coming in, and we are very glad and very happy for giving us this opportunity to be able to learn more, because we could not learn just from the books. It was good to see all this and to learn more about it. Parting short about more support to the African market, about what could be done to kind of push more wine into our market, not just in Kenya in general, but different countries. Now I know you're also in Nigeria, and maybe different countries that can come up in the future. What are some of the way that you think personally could really help some of the winemakers in your country that have never been to Kenya, that would wish to come here? What are some of the ways you think they could be able to support more, or to be more approachable, to be more open and to come to the market? What are some of the ways that you think could really help?
Well, first of all, it depends a bit winery by winery. So we have to see a bit what is the approach that the wineries have, and then after this, then the wineries have to decide where to open new markets. So far, I'm talking about Ridolfi. We export our wines in 43 countries in 6 continents. So we have always been very much open in spreading the word to the world. So I deeply see Africa as a near future in terms of market. Of course, we need a lot of work in terms of education. So we need a little bit more travels. We need people that came into Africa to, as I said before, to educate and to spread the word, to make master classes, to make tasting, to make blind tasting, to make education about the different areas of production that we have in Italy. So I've seen in the last years that the curiosity in Africa about Italian wines is growing and growing, thanks of all the people that have worked during these years, all the academies, Vinitaly International, and all the people that support this program. So this is the only way that I see for the present and for the future. And what I would suggest to the other producers from Italy to do not be skeptic, because I deeply think that is the present and the future. In Africa, we can only grow because it's a growing continent, it's a young continent. And what I've always seen, it's a high end curiosity about what we do in Italy.
Thank you for that. Just a parting shot. What does the few success mean to you?
Daniel, it's simple, and simple things are always very, very tough, as you can imagine. We have always to produce better and better wines in terms of always agronomic and also winemaking. So in both areas, we have to improve every year the quality. We have to embrace the people that would like to visit us in Italy. So welcoming them in Italy to see and to see with the eyes and to touch with the hands what we do in Italy, and also us as wineries and the people that works at the wineries to go outside to spread the word of what we do, so making value about the everyday work that we are doing. So this is what I see in the present and in the future for a good success, and always to work always strong together. So the food part, the restaurants with the wine producer, so to act as one, not to act differently. These are the areas that I would say will bring us a great success.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Arber. Hope to have a taste of Brunello someday in Ridolfi. Hope to enjoy all the style that you produce and to see it in action. Was a pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure, Daniel. I
Pleasure,
look
pleasure.
forward to have you in Montalcino, to welcome you in Montalcino, to see what we do and how we do, and to taste the fruits of the nature gives to us, not only you, but also to all the people that are listening to us to this lovely, lovely interview.
Thank you. That would be a pleasure. That would be an honor to do that for us and all the listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dalian and Arber. That was such a nice interview and super packed with information. To wrap things up, for those who are interested to participate, just send us a DM through our EG or mail our Italian Wine Podcast producers at info@italianwinepodcast.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. Thank you again, Arber and Daniel. And that's a wrap. So, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao a tutti.
Ciao. Asante sana.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, chin chin.